Good morning. Well, as you can see, I made it back to New York safely, so that's a good thing. But I have to tell you, the South is for me. It's cold here, it's dreary, it's misting, it feels like fall, and I just left the beautiful, sunshiny, warm, excuse me, summer weather. So I'm glad that I made it safely. I'm thankful for my home. I thank God for my home. But I need a home in the South. All right. So good morning, everyone. It's good to see you again. Good to be alive. Today is Tuesday, and we're going to be reading Psalms chapter 5. And today I'm a little behind schedule, so I'm only going to read it once out of the Amplified Classic. And this is not too long either. There's only 12 verses in this. All right. So I got back last night. I really couldn't sleep last night. I was up half the night. And so when I woke up in the middle of the night, I read this psalm, and I read it in both the NRSV and the Amplified Classic. And then I started to think about what I was going to name the day. Excuse me, what I was going to name the day, because it was technically Tuesday already. And so I'll tell you what I decided to name the day when we're done with this psalm, all right? But everyone, I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I am just trying to settle back in. I don't have any flowers. I got to go to the store. I got to grocery shop, get myself back accustomed and situated for being at home. All right, so let's go. This is Psalms chapter 5 out of the Amplified Classic, to the chief musician on wind instruments, a psalm of David. Listen to my words, O Lord. Give heed to my sighing and groaning. Hear the sound of my cry, my King and my God, for to you do I pray. In the morning you hear my voice, O Lord. In the morning I prepare a prayer, a sacrifice for you, and watch and wait for you to speak to my heart. For you are not a God who takes pleasure in wickedness, neither the evil man so much as dwell temporarily with you. Boasters can have no standing in your sight. You abhor all evildoers. You will destroy those who speak lies. The Lord abhors and rejects the bloodthirsty and deceitful man. But as for me, I will enter your house through the abundance of your steadfast love and mercy. I will worship toward and at your holy temple in reverent fear and awe of you. Lead me, O Lord, in your righteousness. Because of my enemies, you make your way level, straight and right before my face. For there is nothing trustworthy or steadfast or truthful in their talk. Their heart is destruction, or a destructive chasm, a yawning gulf. Their throat is an open sepulchre. They flatter and make smooth with their tongue. Hold them guilty, O God. Let them fall by their own designs and counsels. Cast them out because of the multitude of their transgressions, for they have rebelled against you. But let all those who take refuge and put their trust in you rejoice. Let them ever sing and shout for joy, because you make a covering over them and defend them. Let those also who love your name be joyful in you and be in high spirits. For you, Lord, will bless the uncompromisingly righteous, him who is upright and in right standing with you. As with a shield, you will surround him with goodwill, pleasure, and favor. Now, I believe that's the verse that I posted today for our Psalm verse of the day. I like to always say that I'm surrounded with favor. So I thought that was a great verse to post. And when I read this in both translations, the two verses that stood out to me the most was number 7. But as for me, I will enter your house through the abundance of your steadfast love and mercy. I will worship toward and at your holy temple in reverent fear and awe of you. And I think that really hit me because I love the scripture, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And so when I read that, but as for me, I know what I'm going to do. That's the way I kind of read it. That's the attitude that I had when I read it. But as for me, I don't care what anyone else is doing. As for me, I will enter your house through the abundance of your steadfast love and mercy. I will worship toward and at your holy temple in reverent fear and awe of you. So whether others backslide, whether others fall away, I don't know what to say about that. I'm sorry to hear that. But as for me, I will serve the Lord. I will enter your house through an abundance of your steadfast love and mercy. And then verse 12, for you, Lord, will bless the uncompromisingly righteous, him who is upright and in right standing with you. As with a shield, you will surround him with goodwill, pleasure, and favor. So I am surrounded by the favor of God. And they kind of go together, right? Because if you say, but as for me, I'm going to serve you, Lord, then it goes to me with verse 12 that says, the Lord will bless the uncompromisingly righteous, him who is upright and in right standing with you. So to me, the two kind of go hand in hand. But if I stay in right standing with the Lord, if I stay in a position of posture and praise and prayer, and I'm trying to live right, then this tells me that I will be surrounded with favor. Okay, so that's what I have to say about this psalm today. Those are my two favorite verses out of this. So let me tell you what I named the day. I flew home, for those of you that know, I flew home last night I flew out of Savannah. I have a problem with turbulence. And I have a problem with turbulence. There were two particular flights that caused me to have an issue when there were turbulence. Once, I was flying from Idaho, believe it or not, I was flying from Boise, Idaho to Colorado. And I was in this little plane that holds, those little planes, they fit maybe like 10 people. And I call them like a little piece of a plane because it's so small, right? So there were maybe 10 of us, maximum 12 people on this flight. I don't remember now because I was in high school when this happened. So I had to take this teeny little plane from Boise, Idaho to Colorado. And we're flying low through the mountains, and the wind starts, and it is blowing this plane. It was like the plane was like a piece of paper, and it is blowing like this, and he's going through the mountains, and it looked like, good morning, Kimberly. It looked like, and it felt like at any moment, this little plane was going to smack into the side of the mountain. And so I just remember I was so petrified. I was flying by myself, and I probably was, I don't know, 16, 17, I think, right? And I was flying home by myself, and I had to go from Idaho to Colorado, Colorado to New York. So this plane is going like this as we're going through the mountains. And all I remember is I kept saying, oh my goodness, this plane, we're not going to make it. This plane is going to smack into the side of one of these mountains. And so I was on this plane, and I kept bargaining with God, and I kept saying, Lord, if you let me survive this flight, I will never, ever, ever get in one of these little planes ever again. I'm done with these tiny little planes. So that was number one. And after that, I said, I will never get on a small plane again. And I do my best to never get on. If I get on a small plane like that, I've only probably since then been on a small plane like that 3 times. And it's because I unknowingly got somewhere, and maybe it was like going from New York to DC, like a really quick flight. And so they don't have big planes. And I think I did it once from New York to Philly. I don't like those small planes. So that started my issue with flying. And then about 5 years ago, I was flying to New York I was going to see my daughter in Maryland. And the flight went to, I think they call it Reagan National Airport, which is right outside of DC in Northern Virginia. And so this one wasn't a small plane. It was like a normal size plane. But when the pilot went to land the plane, just as he was going to land, a storm starts to come in. So he descends, but he can't get the plane onto the runway. He doesn't say anything. And when you looked out the window, because I had a window seat, when I was looking out the window, the weather looked fine, right? It didn't look windy. It wasn't raining. It didn't feel like there was a storm. But whatever was going on, he could not manage to land the plane. But of course, he doesn't say anything. So all of a sudden, he just ascends. We just take off and we start going back up. And so now, after 9/11, when things like that happen, I get a little weary. So he turns the plane around. He tries to land the plane a second time. He still can't get this plane on the runway. And so we make it all the way down, and then he goes right back up into the sky for a second time. So now everybody on the plane was starting to, question like, what is going on? So he attempts to land this plane 3 times. Then he comes on and he makes an announcement. He said, there's a storm coming in. I'm going to turn this plane around. I'm going to go to the opposite side of the airport and see if I can land the plane coming in from a different direction. He tries to land this plane for the 3rd time. He cannot get this plane on the ground, but we descend, we're kind of close to the runway. He can't do it. Up back in the air we go. This was not good for me at all. So he says, okay, I'm going to wait until the storm passes. We'll just wait like 20 minutes. I'm going to fly south into the good weather. Then I'll turn around and we'll come back and we'll try to land the plane. But now we're flying and flying and flying. And then all of a sudden he comes on and says, I'm going to have to figure out where we're going to land this plane because I'm running out of gas. So now we've had 3 failed attempts at a landing, which really was very unsettling, right? And so we're flying south, and now you're telling me that we're about to run out of gas, and you've got to figure out whether you're going to land the plane in Richmond or whether we're going to land the plane in Virginia Beach, right? He's got to find somewhere to land this plane because we're about to run out of gas. None of this is sitting well with me. And so he finally gets clearance to land the plane in Virginia Beach. So we get off the plane, he lands the plane, and he says, okay, I just need to refuel the plane. We'll be here for, 20 minutes or whatever. We'll go back up. I'll get you to, I'll get you to your destination. So they start to refuel the plane or do whatever they do. And then next thing you know, he says, they tell us we have to get off the plane. So everybody's like, I thought we were going back to Reagan. So he says the plane got so damaged in the storm that it's not flyable. We can't fly this plane anymore. This plane has to be taken out of service. And unfortunately, there were no more planes because now it's like going into the evening. There's no more planes to be had so that he can get us from Virginia Beach back to DC, to Virginia. We get stranded there. So there was no getting out. You either had to go find Greyhound, Amtrak, or some other means of getting out of there. So some people spent the night there and they waited for a flight in the morning. My daughter, luckily, she came and picked me up. But after those 2 events flying, I fly because I have to, but when turbulence starts, I start to get very unsettled. So on my flight home yesterday, the flight starts out okay, and now it's dark, it's evening, and we hit a few rough patches, and a couple of them, have you ever been on the plane where the plane just drops quickly? So the plane dropped and it's shaking, and I'm thinking this is not good. And he's not really saying anything other than the flight attendants had to put the carts away and, turn on the seatbelt. Everybody's got to sit down while this is choppy. But I have to tell you, I was not happy. And behind my mask, I had on my N95 mask on the plane, but behind my mask, believe you me, I was speaking to the atmosphere. And I just thought, all of a sudden, I went to peace, be still. When, out of the New Testament. And I just started to command these these turbulence to stop and for the airways to be smooth. Thank gosh, the rest of the flight was easy, and the landing, you couldn't even tell we had landed. You didn't feel the descent. You didn't feel anything. You didn't really feel us touch the runway. The rest of the flight was smooth, but I'm going to tell you, it was rough for a patch there. But anyway, as I woke up this morning, Kimberly, I was saying I really didn't sleep well last night. I was dozing off and awake. So I didn't get a good night's rest last night. But as I was, excuse me, as I was awake last night, I decided to read today's psalm. And then I started to think about what I was going to name the day. And so my mind kept going back to this flight and how uneasy I was for a portion of it. Now, I will say when I fly and the flight starts to get rough, because I've gotten on some really bad flights, and I say to myself, I know that this plane is going to land safely. I know that I will not die prematurely. I know that this plane is not going down, because I always, excuse me, I always say to God, I have some prophetic words that I have not seen manifest. You have promised me things that I have not yet seen the fulfillment of, and I will not depart from this earth prematurely. I will not depart from this earth until I have everything that you said I was going to have. And so ultimately I rest in that, and I know in my spirit, this plane is not going down, but it's just that 10 or 15 minutes of choppy air where we're going up and down and the plane is dropping, that I'm uncomfortable. But, and I just command my angels to get this plane and speak to the atmosphere and command this atmosphere to get under control. And I heard somebody talking about this about 2 weeks ago. Not even 2 weeks ago. Last week, I heard someone else speaking about this, and she was sharing the story of how, actually two people, because someone else bore witness with it, and they started saying how they command the atmosphere. You speak to the atmosphere and you command the airways. You command whatever's going on, whether there's a tornado coming, a hurricane, and one man was sharing the story of how this tornado was in path to hit, I don't know, his house, his mother's house, or something like that. And he said he just started praying and commanding the storm to go in another direction, and it did. And so the lady was saying, when she was sharing this, she was saying, people we don't use our power, and we feel uncomfortable commanding things, right? But just as the Bible says, command your morning, I believe that we should speak to situations and circumstances that we want to change. So I feel like I can and should be able to speak to the wind, speak to the storms. But we don't practice it, right? And so you don't get good at something. You don't build confidence in something until you have practiced it enough. And just like doctors, what do they say? They practice medicine. What do lawyers do? They practice law. So we, as children of God, as the saints of God, what should we do? We should practice walking out our authority. We should practice taking control of situations and circumstances, right? And so that's my approach to it. So, and I've done that on several flights when the flights start to get out of control, or for me. Other people are not fazed by it, but Allison is. And so when it starts, I just start speaking, commanding the turbulence to cease. I command the airways to be smooth, that my flight will be smooth. And so, people might think that I'm crazy, but I will continue to do that and continue to build up my confidence and exercise my authority to speak to situations and circumstances in my, in my life, and command them to get back under control. So there you have it. So with that, I was laying awake in bed last night, and I was like, God, I thank you that you always protect me. You protected my flight. You protect me from accidents, from storms, from harm. And so I decided I was going to name today. Now, I struggle sometimes when I come up with these words. I don't really know what form I want to use, right? So I said I was going to name today Protected, because I was protected on my flight, and I want us to be protected through the upcoming season that we're getting ready to walk in. And I'm sure everybody on here knows yesterday Facebook was out, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp were all down. And so with that, there was a lot of chatter on social media, on Clubhouse yesterday, people talking about what really was behind that and what is going on. And so I was listening to several people speak about it, and people just really say that that was just the beginning of what we're going to see in the days to come. So with that, I just thank God that I was protected on my flight, and I pray that all of us are protected from whatever upcoming outbreaks, storms, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, because we see the weather patterns are changing. I just pray for protection, and I decree and declare that we are protected. So that's I named today Protected. I didn't know whether I wanted to call it protection or protected, but whatever it is, whichever form works for you, that's what we are decreeing and declaring over our lives, that we are divinely protected. You know, that's I think that is my favorite declaration. I am divinely protected. I am fully provided for. And yesterday I was divinely protected, and I continue to be fully provided for. So today I am naming today Protected, and that we will continue to be protected, that we will walk under the protection and the shield and the favor of the Lord, that he will keep a hedge of protection around us. All right. So that's it for me today. I've got to get back to work. I'm, still trying to settle in and unpack and get my house back in order. And I got a grocery shop today, buy my flowers to keep on my desk here. But anyway, everyone have a wonderful day. Kimberly, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Everyone else, good morning to everyone, and thank you for tuning in and listening to my story this morning. All right, everyone, blessings to you. I appreciate you. Bye. See you tomorrow morning for Psalms chapter 6.